What is my most treasured in childhood memory? When I close my eyes, what do I see? I really see me playing outside at my house on Gardner Drive. I'm just like in the cul-de-sac playing football with the neighbor kids, my brothers, and that's really what it is. Being a cul-de-sac kid, playing like, we played this game called Kick the Can, where we had the plates in America that go over the sewer pipe. Well, there was one of those in the middle of our cul-de-sac. We would have someone stand there and there'd be a little pop can there, and everyone would hide, and then the person was it who's guarding the can, and they would have to go try to search and tag the person or the other players. And when they would run away from the can to go look for someone to tag, if you were close by, you could run and you could try to kick the can. And if you kicked the can, you would pretty much let everyone free from jail who got tagged or whatever, who's now sitting on the sidelines. And yeah, that was pretty much the game. So just being a kid in a cul-de-sac is some of my most cherished memories right now. I'm sure I have other treasured memory. What is my most treasured memory from childhood? But that was the first image that came up to mind. Just being a kid in a cul-de-sac with my brothers, playing, hockey, basketball, football, slip and slides. Like, I'm just seeing that cul-de-sac and the fun that we had in that cul-de-sac, just being kids and being boys and playing and basketball and all of it. So that's kind of, I'm really grateful for that. And that's what I'm treasuring right now in this moment. So being a kid in a cul-de-sac, taking action, doing the fun things outside. I also have one. I don't necessarily have this treasured, but just part of that is just being like, I think of that cul-de-sac, it's like, one, I remember taking my mom's camera out there. She had a nice DSLR camera, and first time playing with the camera was in that cul-de-sac. I also remember on the 4th of July, we had them little firecrackers, and they were kind of like they're not the paper wicks that just burn super quick and blow up. They're kind of the green ones, so you could theoretically, you're not supposed to, hold in your hand, light it, and throw it. Well, I was doing that with a friend, my neighbor, and we were standing, and my driveway was on a hill, and we were standing there, and I remember, and this is by no means one of my treasured things, but it's just one of those like kids having fun sort of things. And we're sitting there, we're lighting these firecrackers, and we're throwing them, and we're like, yeah, it's so cool. And then all of a sudden we start like tossing them, and then we start kicking them. So it's like, like a drop kick. You're lighting a firecracker, and then you're trying to drop kick it. And so we're doing this, and I drop kick one, and I'm like, I don't know where it goes. I don't know. And then I feel, boop, it jumped off my shoulder, and then right when it was about this high, boom, exploded in my ear. And then I remember looking at my friend, I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember looking at my friend and being like, I don't want to play no more. Like, I need to like go inside and chill. And I remember like going upstairs and just laying in my bed, pulling the covers over my head and being like, what the heck? My ear hurts so much. Because, literally a firecracker blew up right here. But this was just like life in the cul-de-sac. We were just being kids, having fun, experimenting. And for some reason, that is the treasure that is coming up right now. And instead of telling some like hopey, crazy, happy, joyous thing, somehow I got into a firecracker blowing up on my ear. Now I'm like, how is AI gonna infuse this? Is that treasure? That's not really treasure, but that cul-de-sac was treasure. Growing up with neighbor kids was a real joy. If I had kids, I would want to be around dope neighbors. To be a kid and to have your friends next door and to just like go knock on someone's door, hey, can so and so play? And then you were like standing outside like, sup dude, and it's like you're both like dribbling a basketball, and it's just like, or we're climbing trees. That's gold. That's gold. So grateful for my cul-de-sac. I really treasured that. And let's see here. Number 2. Who had the most influence on the person you became? What did you learn from them? Oi. Oi, oi, oi. Who had the most influence on the person you became? What did I learn from them? Well, who had the most influence on the person you became? The first person that comes to my mind is my tata, or my step grandpa. And what did I learn from them? Well, and if you ask the family, because he's now passed now, many people will describe this man as someone who is non-judgmental, someone who's extremely caring. And what did I learn from them? I remember being a kid, and it's like, I was just talking to my brother about this the other day, because he remembers it too. But it's like, you go to the store with this guy, and he's always talking to people somehow, some way. And I was even asking my brother, how did this guy start these conversations? Like, we don't even remember, but he's always talking. We remember he's always talking to people, asking about their children, asking about, how they're doing, these things. And he had this way, and you could just feel his energy of making people feel at ease and putting a smile on their face. It was never like asking crazy deep questions, in the aisle of, the milk and butter. It was a presence. And just I want to almost say, like, there was this compassionate energy about him, like excited for other people, always curious about how the children were doing, and was a really great man. I'm trying to think, what did I learn from them? Well, I think I'm still learning it. And I think he had this way of being non-judgmental, of being like, whatever's going on in your life is that person's life, whoever's you're interacting with. That's cool. That's amazing. And I think he had this optimism that it's all going to work out. Oh, you're doing this thing right now and whatever, and this is what it is. Well, that's where you are. Like, this acceptance. He had this deep acceptance. And I think he put people, that's why he put people at ease, is because I think people would share, oh, I'm doing this, I'm working this. And I think he would feel their uncertainty. But if that's what he was doing, he would just accept them for that, and be like, oh, cool, great, right on. And then I think that's what made people feel at ease in a way, is this non-judgmentalness. And I think the wisdom in all this is we all are judging ourselves so heavily. And so I think in a lot of ways people would brace to be judged as if they judge themselves. And then they're met with something completely different. They're met with this wave of genuine compassion. Oh, that's what you're doing, right on. And I'm trying to think, it's like, when did I ever complain to Tata that anything... It was an energy. He was showing me something about energy. Because even I think if I complain to him, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember any moments, but it is this feeling of kind of like I see him in my mind, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be all right. Are you trying your best? Are you showing up? You're doing all your things? Then something good is going to happen. Then that's good. Then that's enough. Then that's this. Or that's your plan. That's exciting. That's fun. And I do remember when I was going to travel and I was leaving college and I was walking away from the corporate to go take an adventure in a van and whatnot. He kind of told me, like, don't listen to other people. You follow what you want to follow. And if you're doing this, that's cool and that's fun. And I love you and I appreciate you for that. And that's the person who had the most influence on the person I became. And it's also like this person, so my mom met my stepdad when I was 4. And then shortly after, this guy was my babysitter. And he's this dark Fijian guy, really dark with gray hair, and that's his style. And then I was this half Asian white kid, and we'd go around. I remember he would joke, cowboy and Indian. He was the Indian and I was the cowboy, and he would just take me around. And I really felt like when I came into his life, he went through some sort of identity change. Even though I wasn't his own blood grandkid, I felt like he made this switch of like, oh, now I'm an elder now. Now I'm a grandparent. And I was so young, but There's this book I ended up reading later in life called The Keys to the Kingdom, and it talks about male development and, in a way, how women can communicate with men and blah blah blah. And I think all men should read it so you don't get manipulated, because there's a lot of deep insights into there on how we can be manipulated by women. And it also is telling women, like, hey, you hold a lot of power and be wise with it and blah blah blah. But anyways, this book talks about male development, and the last stage of a man that not every man reaches is a sage. And to go from a king to a sage is this big huge jump that not every man even makes. And I really feel like that's what I'm trying to describe. And I really feel like that I was raised by a sage. My tata, when I came into his life, he went from, I'm a king, I work hard, I have my family, all this, to now I'm becoming a sage. Now I'm a grandparent. Now there's some other responsibility here. There's some other way of living, being, treating people here. And that's really how I truly feel. I had the blessing, and my brothers had the blessing too, of we were our babysitter. We were raised by a sage. And this sage had a soft, gentle way, a non-judgmental way, always kind of smiling, always a pleasant energy. And even my mom was saying this the other day, is that Tata would just randomly show up at our house, and my mom never felt like, and most people, they're what, parent-in-laws or whatever, they'd be like, why are, you didn't call, you didn't give a heads up. But there was never that energy. It was always met with like, everyone was excited to see this person, even if he just, showed up and was like, what are y'all doing? Yeah, I just hear his laughter, hear his simple jokes. And then my brother even says, when we talk about him, he's like, yeah, you're right. Tata would always say, yeah, you're right. Then, I'm not going to say, And yeah. That person had a lot of impact on my life, and I really feel like without that person in my life, I don't know where I would be. I don't know. So I'm very grateful that learned a lot from them. And it was more in this I think it's all unfolding in me now, but I think it's this thing of, one, the first thing on my mind is it could be so simple. And then two, I think of this quote, it's not what you say or what you do, it's how you make people feel is why you'll be remembered. And this Tata was that. I don't think he, when he's talking to someone in the grocery store, or you're sitting there asking him for advice, it's not that he said anything that's like, wow, dude, oh my gosh, so deep wisdom, blah, blah, blah. It's more how he made you feel. And the way I'm describing how he made me feel, it was this way of ease. He had a way of just making you feel at ease. He had this deep empathy that life is this weird, confusing sort of thing, and wherever you are right now, that's okay, and you're doing good. You're not doing good. You're alive. You're here. So let's celebrate that. And he did it all with just soft eyes and open ears. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, what I learned from that person, I think what I learned is still unfolding in all there. But to summarize it, and the real point is, it's not about what you say. It's not necessarily about what you do or what you buy for people. It's more so how you make people feel. So, question number 2. Well, that's how we'll answer that one. And then it's also like with this, like, who had the most influence on the person you became? Well, it's also like, I want to give my parents a shout out in there. And, my last chapter in Ecuador, there was some very influential people who deeply changed me. But it's only asking for one person, so that's who I'm going to choose. What is the most important lesson life has taught you? What is the most important lesson life has taught you? I'm not sure. Well, what comes to the surface? The first thing that came to the surface was I'm being taught the most important lesson right now. And I think it has to do, this lesson that I'm being taught right now is talking can only get you so far. At some point, I think, yeah, I guess this is the quote that's emerging is simplicity addresses discomfort and complexity soothes pain. And then seeing all that in my own life, right? Like the simplicity of you got to do your practices, whatever that is, if that's push-ups or burpees, and especially when you put that physical lens over it, it's like, man, that stuff in a way, in the moment, it's, you're using effort, and that there's this mental thing of, stop it, and that's, how do we address that discomfort? Or how do we be in, why? What is the value? And I don't know, but there's all this value in it. And so, what is the most important lesson life has taught you? Well, one, I also think life doesn't care. There seems to be these underlining rules, and can you, what are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with them? And I'm also thinking right now, kind of how I've been caught in this hypnotic rhythm, as Napoleon Hill describes in his book Outwitting the Devil. And I feel like this is the lesson I'm in. It's like, it doesn't matter. Life doesn't care. You're going to get vacuumed into this hypnotic rhythm, into the structures or systems or, that be, or the distractions or the instant gratification, if you don't have a plan to manage your time and use simplicity to address the discomfort. And I also think with addressing the discomfort, there's more in there, because we have our vision, and then to get there, there's going to be some discomfort in getting there. And I think we just got to wake up and address that. The most important lesson life has taught you. I'm also thinking of this other, what am I thinking of? The most important lesson life has taught me. Well, I'm seeing an image of me as a teenager, and I got caught shoplifting from Macy's. And what was the important lesson in there? Because when I got caught and they had me in the back room, my nervous system was shaking so much. When he was patting me down, he could feel my heartbeat, and he was like, "Are you on cocaine?" And I was like, "What? No, like I'm just that scared." And then I remember coming home and blah blah blah, and then I got grounded for like a long time, like 2 months or something. And I remember that kind of upset me, because I felt like I had already learned my lesson. I had realized, like, oh, you messed up. I messed up big time. And so there's this whole idea of what is the use of punishment? And I felt like my parents grounded me because they didn't know what else to do, and they thought that was the right thing. And then in my mind, I'm like, I learned my lesson. I really messed up there. Like, I got in trouble, and like that was not cool. And what was I, stealing and all that energy? What is the deeper lesson there? I think it was cause and effect. Cause and effect. So there's like, yeah, and I'm just relating all these lessons to kind of these universal principles I picked up. It's like, there's cause and effect, and it's working in both ways, Okay, you shoplifted once or twice, and then it catches up to you and you get caught. And yeah, cause and effect. And then it's like, I think also the deeper thing there, and if you study Mark Passio's work about, and how he goes deep into the Kybalion, and then he talks about justice at the end, he says there's really only one kind of rule in humanity, and that's do not steal. And then he even describes murder as stealing. You're stealing someone's life. And I feel like that was an important lesson for me there. And then I think there's other ways, and this is my kind of fascination with constantly seeing these characters in myself, where it's like, who am I to think that I know? Because when I know, when I think that I know, am I actually stealing someone else's discovery process? And and then now this whole stealing thing can be way more than just shoplifting or, what am I stealing there? And I think, but there's something in the core of what I'm getting at here, which is the best way we can actually help anyone else is to help them come to their own discovery, to have them have that own aha moment. And it's happened for me so many times where it's like someone is, well, I think all of my ex-girlfriends would be like, holy cow, you know how many times I like tried to tell you something and your stubborn brain couldn't like compute, and then some random stranger tells you the same thing, and then you come home like, I'm forever changed, you won't believe what happened. And then they just look at me and they're like, dude, I've literally been telling you that for months, but I love you and I'm still happy for you and I'm glad you're figuring it out now, but goddamn. And what does that have to do with this idea of stealing? They're somehow connected, because I don't think we can, like, I can't just feed you all this. And that's why I like this idea of questions, because through questions can you get the answer, but then I also see my own behavior in all of this where I want to like pounce, where I hear someone talking. Well, it's just like, I just think of myself in elementary school, and every time my parents would come in for the parent-teacher meeting, the teachers always said one thing: Casey's a real good kid, except he has a trouble blurting, meaning like, teacher asked the question and it's like, what are the answers? And me, instead of raising my hand, I just shout out the answer, because it's like, ADHD squirrel mind or whatever, or I just wanted to be a know-it-all and get the attention. I'm not too sure, but blurting, and I think even in conversation, when I'm like, feel someone's energy, or I'm empathizing, or I'm this, and instead of me holding back, this is, thinking like I know, this is what you should do to turn your life around. It's like, can I just keep asking questions until they arrive at their own truth? And instead of stealing that truth away and being like, here, look, I found it for you. Because I'm always met with the level of resistance. And I think even in myself, it's other times this has happened. So what is the most important lesson life has taught you? Well, now what is the point? Do not steal. Do not steal. Cause and effect is real. And in a way, it's all mental, and your attitude, your perception of how you're looking at things has a huge impact on now what will unfold. So what is the most important lesson life has taught you? I feel like I gave 3 answers. And that's where I'm at with that I don't think there's a wrong way to do this process. So that's where I'm at on question number 3. Let's see, we click this. What happens? We are so back. All right, it says here, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self? Sure. Classic. All right. Let's just do this simple thing right here. I am 29. Let's see. What advice would I give my 19-year-old self? What advice would I give my 9-year-old? All right, let's go back, way back. 9-year-old self. I wouldn't give my 9-year-old self no advice. That guy, he was crushing it. He was dope. My 19-year-old self. 19, I went to Vietnam for the first time, about around, coming up here, same time frame. And that guy, I remember that guy, he got lonely in Vietnam. He ran out of money, was a little bit, and then I really felt like there was this moment in Vietnam where it was like, go back to American fraternity college life. And that was, my solution to addressing this kind of loneliness. And I was 19, I'm half Vietnamese, first time in Vietnam. My dad is one of 8, so I'm spending time with just aunts and uncles, cousins. And so it was either go back to American college or ask my dad for some money and go kind of travel alone, and I was in Vietnam. I'm like, maybe I go to Thailand, maybe I buy a motorcycle and I just start driving around. So it was like adventure or American college life. And I chose American college life, and then even like I just read a journal from 10 years ago. In a lot of ways, I see so many similarities, and I had this thirst for knowledge, and I was seeking something, and I was seeking wealth, and all of these things. What would I tell that version of myself? Because in a lot of ways, I'm not my life. Okay, maybe there's a few more thousand in the bank account than there was then, but 10 years have gone by. I've collected all this knowledge, but how much has my life really, really, really changed? And I also remember this other time, okay, I went back to American college, and then after I finished my last kind of 6 months there, it was like, okay, I want to graduate college with no bad habits. And then 6 months after I graduate and blah, 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 and I'm living life, and I'm like, oh, okay, I have no bad habits. But I kind of set the bar low for myself because I also have no good habits as well. I'm like this neutral slate. And so what advice would I give to that younger self? That guy at 19 who, in a lot of ways, that was just beginning my curiosity phase. And I'm glad I pushed fully into my curiosity phase. And then that 20 phase, it was, no bad habits guy. And still deeper curiosity. Well, just still following that curiosity. And I would never change. I'm so grateful for myself that I always prioritize following my curiosity and in a way following my joy and always doing kind of what pulls me or what's most fun. And I've never really been motivated by the grind of money. It's kind of like, what am I curious about? And let's do that or let's study that. And I guess the advice I would give to myself is kind of what I'm doing now, where it's like, you got to build the habits. Or not necessarily that, not habits, because it's bigger than that. And I've also, since that time, I've been in 2 kind of long-term relationships that didn't work out. And what I want to say on that really quick is this whole happy wife, happy life thing doesn't work. And this whole, you can't substitute the dream I have in my heart with like finding the dream girl. It's like, now I got the dream girl, now everything's done, and that's the whole happy wife, happy life. Can I just keep the dream girl happy? Meanwhile, it's like the dream that I was born on this planet is dying inside of me. And that dream that is inside of me, it's just a feeling, and I don't necessarily have a game plan to chase that feeling. And so it seems easier to be like, let me solve all of her problems and do all of her stuff. And I had to learn that, but how is this themed into what is the most important thing? Well, I guess to summarize it, it's like, can I be that younger advice? I think it's to care so deeply about your dreams. Can you care so deeply about your dreams that, and because you care so deeply about your dreams, you have actions and habits that show just how much you care about those dreams. There's not anything else that you're gonna read. Well, in a way, I'm glad I studied all of these things, but I see my younger self, and I always kept looking for the answer and the next thing I can consume, or the next, if I just knew more, I understand more, then I'll be ready. Then I'll be ready. And it's cliche advice, but I don't think you'll ever be ready. And the more important thing is that you have dreams that you're willing to, that you care so much about that you're willing to devote your time to them. And you have a plan to devote your time. And you're organized about that time, and you're willing to protect those time slots where you are focusing on making that feeling, that long-term feeling, that dream of the heart a reality. And you're experimenting and trying. So I think that's the advice I would give. One, you're never going to be ready, and you got to take action. It's cliche, but I look at my life, the pit, and it's really a perspective pit. Like I'm just searching for new perspectives, new knowledge, new this, and looking for that medical amphibrillator of dopamine to just shock my system and be like, I have the answer. But then that only lasts for, you're high for a day, and then you come back to the reality of like, I'm not making the momentum I want on my goals. And yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing is, you know, I'm giving that advice to myself now before, I don't know. And it's hard. It's not, there's like, yeah, I would have told myself all these things I'm downloading now about simplicity. Simplicity is beauty, and simplicity is also addressing pain, and therefore there's beauty in addressing, it's addressing discomfort. And so there's always beauty in someone who is addressing their discomfort, who's looking their discomfort in the face. It's debatably the most beautiful thing. I say women are the pinnacle of beauty, and then I'm just gonna stop there. The advice I give to my younger self is keep things simple and have a bias towards action. To summarize, and I would be like, hey, you're gonna want to get lost in the sauce. You're gonna want to read all the recipe books on life, but the thing that matters most is that you are attacking life through the scientific method. You take yourself with enough love or care or seriously enough to follow through on the experiments that you are constantly designing. And encourage myself to set longer and longer term experiments. And like, that's where I'm at right now. Okay, like I said at the beginning of the video, 100-day experiment of answering these questions, go. And so that advice I give to my younger self is the same advice I'm doing my best to digest now. And the only difference is, save myself 10 years. Yeah, I might not be able to recite as many fancy, mental frameworks on how to dissect things, but and I'm not necessarily, my relationships were amazing and they helped me grow. And I think part of the reason they fell is because of this. It's not that I wasn't savvy enough. Well, multiple reasons on all of that stuff. But I think the big core thing is I got discovered. I got discovered as a fraud in both my relationships. And then I feel like being discovered as a fraud led to the downfall of the attraction, which then is like, how lovers become roommates sort of thing. And I think I got discovered as a fraud because I could talk with confidence. I have all these big ideas. I have all of this curiosity and thirst for knowledge. But then I think when it came down to it and you looked at my actions were always in regards to pleasing her. What can I do to solve her problems and make her happy and to get her validation and take that dopamine? And I never knew, I never actually was okay, you have your thing, let me just listen to you and let me just be present. And I'm, still figuring that one out. But I think the bigger thing there, how the attraction died out, is because they heard about my dream a million times, but they never actually saw me acting on what I was speaking about. And then I think when that was found out, they're like, he clearly doesn't respect himself or his ideas enough, and he's a talker, not a doer, and it's just, then I have the icks. And that caused me a lot of pain. So my younger self, it's like, avoid the icks and practice what you preach, which is the same thing I'm trying to do now. So yeah, So that's where I'm at. That's my advice to my younger self. Practice what you preach, champion. Practice what you preach. And I'm in day 3 of trying to practice what I preach now. So we'll see where this goes. But if that's the advice I gave myself 10 years ago, let's take that now, because it's only day 3. And yippity yabbity. All right. Let's see what is going now. All right. If I could go back in time, what advice would I give myself? Practice what you preach, young cowboy. Because wisdom doesn't come from just knowledge, it comes from the experience of trying that knowledge on. Create that scientist. You're experimenting with the thoughts, the frames, the perspectives. You're trying to pull life apart because you're so excited. Like simply because you're so excited. And yeah, my iPad turned black. This wisdom I give to my other self. I don't have an answer yet, but I realize how much I've been controlled by other people's perspectives, and I don't have the solution or the wisdom. All I could say is, don't be controlled by other people. But it's like I'm still fucking controlled by other people's perspectives, so that's not the advice. There's no advice there, but I realize it's crippling. It's crippling, and I don't have a solution for that, so I can't advise on that yet. But practice what you preach. Prioritize your dream because, no one's gonna do it. And just because your dream is it's just a feeling in the heart. And I saw it's a feeling in the heart, and you so badly just want it to be simple, to do this, and this, and be able to reverse engineer that feeling. And if you can't, can you be okay with that? And can you still move forward with your best guess on what the proper, what just feels good that might get me closer towards there? Because if it's a feeling you're chasing, what already gives me a sense of that tingly feeling, and how do I move towards that feeling? And these are things I'm doing now with all of this. Is okay, I imagine myself in this library-esque creator palace, beautiful structure, and the energy, the aura baked into the hallways and the concrete is just thousands of children laughing, playing tag, curiosity, falling in love, couples holding hands, holding babies, pushing strollers, children crawling, learning to walk, all of that stuff. And I'm there, and I was a part of it, and I was a mover, a shaker, and a leader, and I want to move towards that, the future of education, and seeing some of my top students go on to accomplish things they never even thought were possible, and them having so much gratitude for the environment in which they were able to explore their curiosity. So that's where I'm going. And I don't know how to get there. But right now it's like, well, maybe if I just press record, that will get me a little bit closer. And pressing record and now going into the questions like these, is that bubbling up that feeling that I'm feeling in that vision. And it's where I'm at. So got a little sidetracked there, but this might also just be my style. It's like maybe you'll never, I don't know, get a direct answer for one of these questions out of me. But this is fun, and I'm always left jumping to the next question like, did I fully answer that? All right, but let's jump forward. What false belief did you shed that liberated you? Oh, what false belief did I shed that liberated me? Freedom. What false belief did I shed that liberated me? Well, I think what false belief? I see one of my friends that I had the privilege of spending a lot of time with in Ecuador, and I just see him looking at me with that peculiar smile, and he's like, "Oh, so you want to be a good person?" And I feel like I'm still shedding that process, being a good person. And instead of being a good person, it's like, can I just be me? Because it's like, what is this good, bad? Is that what I shed that liberated me? Good person, being a people pleaser, to be a good person, where it's like, I just want to be me. So, and whatever, I'm gonna, like, I talked to my mom about this. Like, I don't want to be a good person anymore. I just want to be me. And my mom laughed in my face, and she's like, well, when you are you, you just are a good person. And so there's something in all of that paradox. It's like when you stop trying so hard, it just naturally shines through. And this whole, another thing this friend kind of, and I'm going to say it in my own words, I think how he might have said it is guilt and shame are the scum of the planet. And then I kind of realized guilt and shame is the leading dominant cult on the planet. And the question I've been asking is, can everything be done with just awareness? Is awareness enough? Because often we have awareness, then from the awareness spawns the guilt or the shame. And it's like, can we slow down and be like, I was aware, that is enough? And yeah, and I'm experiencing that now, and I still question that, but if I look at things, it's like some sort of XP bar loads, and even if that XP bar is the bar of, you know, being sick and tired of being sick and tired, it's like, I just can't take it anymore. Now I'm gonna change. Now I'm gonna act. Now I'm gonna channel this energy the best way I know how. So what belief did I shed that limited that? Well, I'm in that process of guilt and shame are a cult that you actually don't need. That's one of these ideas I'm working on shedding. This other idea is like I don't want to use so much energy to try to be perceived a certain way, or you know, or whatever. I just want to be me. I just want to have the freedom to say what I want, and if it hurts someone's feelings, then like okay. And can I do all this stuff without stealing, right? You know? Or if I do hurt someone's feelings, can I, you know, where's the guilt or shame? Can I just be like, yeah, probably could have handled that better, but there's like no point in now, like, you know, putting myself in timeout and then spanking myself with a flip-flop. Like that's what guilt or shame like actually is, I feel like. So I'm shedding that. The other thing is that I think that liberated me, and that is liberating me, is this question of worth. This kind of question of who am I not to be worthy? There's only one answer to this question. Who am I not to be worthy? And that answer is nobody. I'm born worthy. You look at a baby, it's just packed with potential. A baby is born worthy because we are breathing, we are living, we are existing, we are worthy. We are worthy to change our minds. We are worthy to, you know, do whatever we want in a way. You know, we're worthy, and it's just like cause and effect. So there will be consequences if you want to do whatever you want, but we are born worthy. And I kept asking this question of who am I not to be worthy? And then, you know, all these ideas of my worth is only tied to my effort, or my worth is only tied to, you know, my mind. And I'm still shedding all of this. I think I understand it in my brain. It's like, no, you're no different than when you see a little bean of a human, a little baby human, you're like, whoa, this thing is, and it's like, you know, whoa, you just feel it's just oozing with magic, and like, you know, you're like, this thing, this bean baby is gonna like, has the potential to change the world. Like this thing's just, whoa, it's just so cool. And those are worthy, and it's like, I'm still that. I'm just, you know, bigger version of that. But I was born worthy. Nothing changed really since I was born. I'm just in the process of, you know, life and death. And I'm still worthy. So I think we get this whole not enoughism and feeling not enough and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, shedding that, because it's like, I'm worthy. There's nothing I can do not to be worthy. And, you know, it's easy to just look out into the world, and then we put our worth, you know, especially as men, in, you know, how much money we have, what car we drive, you know, how much our suit is, you know, how hot our girlfriend is. And none of that makes me, that can't give me worth. Those are just fun things to have. And, you know, I'm separating those. I feel like I made good progress, and then, you know, but then you listen to some of my videos this week, and it's like, you know, this theme of self-hatred is running in there, and I'm like, I haven't dissected how all of that ties in with my ideas on worth. It's just kind of got planted in there like, oh, is all self-improvement rooted in self-hatred? And it's like, whoa. And I think the more and more I question it, it's like, no, if anything, it seems it's rooted in curiosity. And, you know, change for what? For what? for what? And it's also like, I'm looking outside right now, it's fall, I see the trees are losing their leaves. Does a tree lose its leaves in the winter because of, does it change out of self-hatred? Or is it changing because it's just the natural thing to do? And and all these semantics of our language can confuse us because it's inevitable. And then that's this whole quest of synchrodestiny in a way, and all my change has been rooted in that. In a way, it's like uncomfortability, loading bar, 90%, sick and tired of being sick and tired in some area of my life, and then boom, some knowledge, some wisdom, some conversations, just doof, doof, doof. And I was asking this question, last weekend, just randomly. Some people I met on the street was like, is there such thing as toxic positivity? And the girl just went very lucid and just gave me an amazing answer. And she's like, there's no such thing as toxic positivity. There is such thing as toxic dismissal. And that got me thinking, and I have this whole idea of like the please disease, like I talked about. Am I putting myself in situations where now I feel compromised, or I feel like I'm overriding my being, my what feels good to me, or even what keeps me in a state of homeostasis in a way, and not necessarily, like push-ups, like, oh, it's gonna, you're gonna feel better after. It's like, am I overriding myself, my dreams, my appointments, all this stuff to please someone else? And so am I dismissing, am I dismissing my being, my dreams, my responsibilities to please someone else in a way? And now we have toxic dismissal. Because, I'm overriding my feelings to put on a mask to, I'm dismissing myself and how I feel to make you happy, make you comfortable. And how is all that tied into all of this? So, what have I shed that's liberating me? Well, just where I'm at in my life, I don't know if I shed anything, but these are the ideas I'm playing. I'm working towards just having the awareness of when I'm experiencing guilt or shame, and then letting that go a little bit quicker. Just going down river, being like, wait. Instead of now I'm holding a coal. Instead of squeezing the coal, it's like, let's just let it go. And I'm just becoming quicker at seeing that. And now these ideas of self-worth and all these things, it's like reminding myself, it's like, who are you not to be worthy? Framing in that question, it's like, wait, I'm no one. I'm worthy. I'm born worthy. Now it's just a matter of making up my mind and taking the actions towards it. And I think as I'm doing that, it's honestly confirming my worth. Versus if you're saying, who am I not worthy to have, let's say just who am I not worthy to have $1 million? Well, the answer is no one. But if I don't make actions towards actualizing that $1 million, or I don't even have a plan, then clearly on some level, I don't feel like I'm worthy enough. Because if I did feel worthy enough, then I would have a plan and I would be attacking my plan, right? So some of these semantic things, but also, there's some truth in all of this. These questions are good. This is actually my first time looking at the question. I think there's 1,000 of them, right? You see the first 5. I just power scrolled and randomly caught the words. I'm like, oh, this looks good. I like questions. And now I'm sitting here trying to answer them, and I'm feel like I'm not giving a direct answer. And now my mind's like, how is the AI gonna work with all this? But this is a fun experiment. I don't know. And I didn't know how. I thought I'd be like, pew, 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 pew. Oh, answer 10 questions. Take me 10 minutes. Minute a question. Pew. And then I'm like, oh, this is pulling all of this out of me. Which was the purpose of this. To get comfortable sharing and being authentic with where I'm at. And that's that. So, I answered 5 questions. Let's hop back to them real quick. Right here. This section of this section was called Early Life and Formative Experiences. So those are my early life formative experience answers to these 5 questions. And I'm gonna stop this video here. I think even if I want to record more I'm still gonna chunk my videos just based on this. And I really feel like early life informative experiences, like these 5 questions here, could theoretically give me, with the correct inflow of guests. I think everyone could babble on about these questions similar to how I did. And with someone who's super curious, kind of pulling out more questions like, oh, tell me more about that person. Tell me about his character. Who's the most important person? Because I could have been like, oh, my dad, what did you learn from him? How to be a monk. And then it's like, it could be done. Like, but we want that depth. And now I'm realizing in the depth, it's kind of like, these questions is like you're trying to identify the trunk. But then as you follow it down, you realize there's all these roots. And I think analyzing how I answered some of these questions, I think that's how it was. You just see this roots effect. It's like pew, 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 pew. All these different roots kind of are formulating me. And I think it's fun. I think it's cool. And this is also what I love to marvel at other people. It's like, oh, that's a unique perspective. How does that, what is that the dance of the roots on how you gave that answer? There it is. So that was today's work, and that's that. Now that's 5 down. I have 995 more to go. By February 8th is my date. Halloween, 100 days from Halloween is February 8th. Is it like that every year? I don't know, but maybe. But here we are. So, if you're coming along on this journey with me, cool. Or you're, in the future and you have Casey in your pocket and it's your favorite AI dude of all time, just know this is where it came from. These are the roots. That would be super cool. I would love to put myself in everyone's pocket and be like, yo, Case, what's your perspective on this? And it's like, well, worth and this. And I don't know. How is it? Like ChatGPT can already be so fun. How would it be to be, GBT Case? Like, who knows? It's all perspectives and things and like this, whatever. I'm on the train. 5 out of the 950, whatever, but we'll get there. Should we throw a party? Should I answer 100 questions? Be like, yeah, 900 questions left. Let's rage. Like, I don't know. But anyways, thanks for coming on this journey with me. Peace.